We just caught news that BroncBuster's new Portal Edition Bronco took spill on the highway. Was this accident related to portals? Here to give us the play-by-play, we have Tyler Mason, the CEO of BroncBuster.
Good to be with you tonight, Heidi.
Oh, thanks for joining us. So Tyler, can you set the scene for us? What were the events that led up to this accident on US 59?
Well, we were traveling through Houston on Friday, well, what was last Friday? Anyways, we were traveling through Houston last Friday and going about 75, 80 miles an hour with the flow of traffic, and I was actually on the phone with one of my associates up in Idaho, Talon, who was getting some new product shipped down to us. And in the middle of that phone conversation, we had a catastrophic failure. I, at the time, had no idea what was going on. All I know is that the vehicle just started shaking the whole front end and grinding, and gears going crazy, and that grinding was causing us to kind of go all over the place. I had to go across 4 or 5 lanes of traffic to get to the exit to get off. Meanwhile, I'm slowing down, trying not to hit anybody. And I finally get the vehicle off, down the off-ramp, and I pull into the closest place. It just happened to be a mental institute, but I don't know what that says, right?
Yeah, the mental facility for the maniac.
That's right.
Yep. When you took a look under the vehicle, what did you find?
Well, first off, initially I climbed underneath there, and worst thoughts going through my head. I mean, did I mess up the install? Did I have a portal come apart? I had been out testing this thing pretty hard the day previous, and I had no idea what I was going to see. Well, initially when I looked underneath there, first thing I saw was the differential tube, and it was broken completely. Mm-hmm. And so now I'm getting an idea of what happened, but I still don't know for sure the extent of it, what caused it, why, what's going on at that point.
So Tyler, can you detail for us what exactly broke on the differential tube? Yeah,
so first, let me explain for anybody that doesn't know what a differential tube is. You have the differential, and this is what drives your front. It's called the front drive unit, or FDU. And coming out of your transfer case when you put it in four-wheel drive, this essentially is what drives the passenger side wheel. So you have a set of gears, your ring and pinion here, that engages this shaft. This shaft comes to your CV axle. Your CV axle then drives your wheel. So this differential tube, essentially, as I look under there, I just see this here kind of separated, looking like that. And not a surprise, quite frankly, because the irony in this whole story, and I promise you I couldn't even write this story if I tried. The irony in this is that the person I was on the phone with was Talon. All right, so I had Talon Hobbs on the phone with me, and him and Jake with the Utah Bronco Club, and we were talking about the event coming up, getting ready for it. He had just shipped everything out to me from Idaho, and one of the things that shipped out was this differential tube. Here's a picture of it. As you can tell, a lot beefier than the stock. And so this is a part we've been working on since SEMA last year. About October, November, we started working on this because that's when we first started seeing our failures of this. You can see I've got other parts. I've shipped most of my broken tubes to Austin so we could cut them apart, figure out what needed to be reinforced. And as you can see in the picture, we substantially reinforced it. Now, to talk about what this is cast aluminum. So cast aluminum is a lot weaker than a billet aluminum. It's literally poured in a mold, the casting comes apart. It's a lot less expensive in manufacturing because the way we're doing it is a complete big chunk of aluminum that gets CNC machined out, and that center bore so that it can accept everything. It's got needle bearings. It's got very precision parts in there. So this was in order to CNC this to the precision we needed, it took us some time. In fact, at one point I kind of held off doing it because of the cost it was to manufacture this part. But then we had more failures, more people saying, no, we need this, so we pressed forward.
All right, so why do you believe this stock differential tube failed?
Well, you have what's called metal fatigue. As I climbed up underneath there, and here's a little clip of my initial findings. As you can see, I climbed under there and I talked about it for a minute as far as what I saw. And what I detailed in that little video is you could see there The darker gray and a little bit of shininess around there was the part that had already been broke. So where did I break it? When did I break it? That's the question, right? I believe I broke it previous day. We were out at Hidden Falls, or it could have been the previous weekend, or it could have been the weekend before that. All I know is I broke that at some point, cracked it, and then going down the freeway and probably accelerated one last time. And you know, when you're accelerating, this here is to keep this tube for the differential intact and without moving. And without that there, this wants to jump all over the place, right? So my belief is that at the point when I had accelerated one more time, that gave way, and when that gave way, this whole shaft had nothing to support it, and the whole differential is just doing this. So you got CVs out there that have angle, or have you know, ability to move. You have that whole differential twisting and turning, and as it did that, it caused the ring and pinion to bind and shear a tooth off. And as that tooth sheared, oh, here's the picture. You can see. I mean, we'll put this picture up for you. It turned it literally to a soup bowl is what I'm calling it. I mean, just all kinds of metal shards in there. And so my belief is, to answer your question, Heidi, the failure was caused initially by the metal fatigue, the stress that happened, but it didn't finish it. Any other time that this has broke on us, we've always saw the break while off-roading, not a big deal. Mm-hmm. The scary part in this instance is it decided to finish braking while going 80 miles an hour down the freeway. Mm-hmm. Luckily, I got a really good guardian angel, and we did not have an accident. I was able to get it under control, get it off the freeway, but it's just motivated me even that much more to get the message out there of, if you can't buy this tube or reinforce this, or, you know, we have other options. We have the Ultimate 44 as an option too, which this gets reinforced with a cast iron steel, you know, steel part. And so I don't see failure happening there. But I say at the very least, this is kind of your pre-road checklist. So you're done wheeling, you're getting ready to hit the road. I'd get up underneath there, clean off around this thing here, make sure you don't have fractures or cracks, because going down the highway, that could be catastrophic. So that answers, well, hopefully that answers your question on what causes that failure.
Yes, it certainly did. So I know you touched on this earlier, this being made out of aluminum, and you said your product is going to be made out of steel, correct?
No, it's made out of aluminum, but there's a big difference between cast aluminum and billet aluminum. So billet aluminum, there's different grades and levels of aluminum. 6061 is what we machine it out of, and it's probably 3 times the strength of cast aluminum. The only thing stronger in aluminum than a 6061 would be a 7075, but there's no reason for that. I mean, not only did we go a lot stronger material, but it has a lot more girth to everything, a lot beefier, thicker. We went with as thick as we could without interacting and getting in the way of other things.
Okay, so besides the material that you chose to use, are there any other design differences between your differential and the stock ones?
No, really it's being able to have that reinforced to the frame, because you don't want that ever coming loose. Mm-hmm. And just making it stronger, because it's our belief that this shaft will not fail. I mean, anything can fail, but the cause of we're seeing of the shaft failing or the differential failing is because of this weak housing. Without that support, things just go berserk.
Okay, and so for your product design, when you were creating it, was it more for off-roading, or can this be used in a racing application as well? Or do you just recommend it for everyday use? You
know, the Bronco's not really designed for racing, so I call it a everyday use if you're going to go off-roading. I'm not telling everybody that has a highway vehicle that they're ever going to break this, because probably not. This happens when you get, you know, some of that little bit of bounce in the front end. And yes, we're out testing the portals. We were out the day previous testing the portals. You were with me. In fact, you were kind of saying, you need to break something, Tyler. And I said, I don't want to break nothing. I kind of like coming out here with portals and not breaking nothing and going home. However, that is what we've based our business around. So, you know, where I would normally tell somebody, hey, slow down, take it easy, take a new line, don't get that front end hopping. I put our vehicles to the test through that, you know, okay, with the portals, what is the next fail point? People ask that. And what do I maybe need to reinforce if I want to take it to that level with 40-inch tires? I'm on 38-inch tires, so there's a lot of stress there when you get the front wheel spinning, a little bit of bounce and hop. That jarring goes somewhere, right? Yes, we've taken 22% of the stress off of our inner components. I still say that 100% portals has given us a lot more ability, the clearance, and less likely to break. Does that mean we're not going to break? No. I mean, I would say under this situation, we've shown what can break next, right?
Yeah, well, speaking of portals, let's rewind back to Hidden Falls when you were doing testing on that for off-roading capability. What impact did this testing on portals have in relation to your differential tube braking? So, you know, we're going to throw some video up here. The day previous, we went out with Jesse from 𝐓𝐇𝐈𝐒 Broncos and decided to, I told Jesse, hey, Jesse, here in your buggy, take me on the hardest lines. Find the stuff that is the most difficult, and let's see how the Bronco does. And as you saw, because you were right there filming, sometimes camera angle doesn't do it justice. I mean, we're on loose rock and then up loose rock mainly. It's steep. You had a hard time even climbing up that, right? Yes, definitely. The loose rock makes it a lot harder to get a grip on the ground, so I can definitely understand how that would affect tires being able to grip. Well,
and keep in mind, I went out there for a reason with street tires. You know, I mean, I was in the ATs, not, you know, ATs meaning all-terrain. This is more of a street tire. It's not a sticky. It's not an aggressive mud terrain that helps dig into some of that looser dirt and sand and rock. And so I was relying at some points on a little bit of momentum or a little bit of just wheel speed to get me up. Well, again, I understand the risks involved in that. I wanted to show, okay, well, what can you do with a vehicle that is your daily driver? You want that nice, quiet comfort going down the road without hearing gear noise or hearing the whine of tire, the humming of tires. You want just a really quiet ride. And then you want to go out and wheel it. You know, what does that take and where can I take it? Well, that video, I think, these couple of clips we're putting up here, I think very much shows we're able to take it to an extreme level. Yes. Extreme level.
Yeah, definitely. And from the naked eye, someone who doesn't, I mean, coming into working with BroncBuster, I hadn't really paid a lot of attention to off-roading. So just saying from my perspective, naked eye, I've been really impressed with the Bronco's performance off-roading, especially with the portals and the clearance that the portals give the Bronco. He's been able to keep toe-to-toe with Jeeps and even a buggy. That's going to be a video we're releasing soon. It's Bronco versus buggy, and he kept right up with that buggy. I was really impressed.
Well, and we've done obstacles, Snoopy Falls. I mean, we were out there the previous weekend, plus we did it again on this trip over and over and over. There's not been one time I haven't gotten over it. And we've gone out there with Jeep groups, and not all the Jeeps. I mean, they said sometimes 30% of the time they can get up it.
Yep.
And so it's not even just us keeping up with the Jeeps, but it's now the Jeeps being able to keep up with us. So that's a cool distinguishing.
I did notice that a couple times. A couple Jeeps couldn't get up. What is it called? Snoopy Falls?
Snoopy Falls, and yeah.
A couple Jeeps couldn't even make it up there, but the Broncos have been doing it.
Some didn't even try, because it is, some of these obstacles don't look what they really are, but they're some of your more extreme. Now, we're at Hidden Falls. We're not out at Wolf's Caves. We'll go out another time at Wolf's Caves, which is even more extreme. But again, on that loose rock and, you know, some of those real extreme, there's still some pretty good stuff that gives a good idea of what these things are capable of, especially with the portals. But again, nothing's not breakable. I tell people that all the time. You can break anything. And we clearly show that over and over again. I'm not telling you you've got to run out and replace your differential tube, but I am saying keep an eye on it. And added insurance, yes. Some might say, well, for the price of that tube, I might as well just plan on replacing my differential. True. However, this is a lot easier to replace than the whole differential. And when the whole differential breaks, it sometimes takes out other things like your CVs and can cause other damage. I mean, we had one time in my wife's that the differential come loose from a mount and actually broke the transmission.
Yeah.
It caused damage there. So I'm just saying, understand your risks and know going into it what options there are to reinforce, and this is a great option.
And would you say the proposed preventative maintenance that you're proposing for the differential tube, is that of the same importance that you've mentioned for steering rack components?
You know, I'm going to say that steering is still more important. I mean, the last thing you want to do is ever lose your steering on-road or off-road. And I would have said even before Friday's incident, you know what, this is strictly an off-road thing. Not really worried about it on-road. However, never really thought about the scenario of what happens if it cracks off-road and finishes it off on-road, and what kind of a scary ride that can be. Now, again, I feel very lucky. I think my guardian angel's probably on overtime, because, you know, with the hopping of that front end and jumping all around, to get it off safely, and, you know, everything just worked out perfectly. From our tow truck driver that took the tow, even though it was getting late in the evening, by the time we could get somebody to even dispatch, nobody wanted to go 190 miles. And we had TJ, which was a super cool guy. So I had Grayson with me, and Grayson, I got to know this guy a little bit, and just awesome guy that said, hey, you know what, I want to go home, but I see somebody's in need. I'm going to take this dispatch. And he took us halfway. We had Amy coming the other half of the way with the crawler hauler. Yeah. And we got home by, I don't know, 1 in the morning.
Yes. Well, that's good. I'm glad that you were able to find some helpful people on the road. Yeah. Okay, so your initial concern when braking on the highway, you mentioned, was your portals. Would you agree that the portals ended up being the saving grace of this incident?
You know, I think that without the portals or with them, it probably could have been the same outcome. You know, I don't know that the portals saved me from anything. In this instance, I would just say that I was quite relieved, because, you know, of course, you got those out there that are saying, oh, those portals won't hold up, and those portals this and those portals that. And I'm like, well, listen, guys, I've already put about 3,500 miles on them in about a week and a half, and we've gone off-road with them 3 times, you know, heavy, you know, testing off-road. And so I feel like what sets us apart is, number one, we've shown it going over 50 miles an hour on the freeway multiple times. You know, we really do drive it and show that. Number two, we've taken it off and off-roaded it on something more than just little boulders and pebbles. So, you know, we actually do test these things on the Bronco heavily, and that's an important thing. Now, was there something that came about? Yes, this. And was it related to portals? Absolutely not. I would say the only relation that I have in my mind, it's my belief that without the portals, we probably would have had that brake completely on the trail and would have known it before being on the freeway. But who knows? Possibly, right? You never know when you have something cracked and when it's going to give way. So it's all speculation at that point.
All right. Well, there you have it, folks. That was Tyler Mason joined us for a full play-by-play of the events that happened on US 59. All right, Tyler, well, thank you so much for meeting with us today. It was a pleasure having you on your channel.
Always a pleasure, Heidi.
Guest star.
Guest star. No, hopefully this made a little bit of sense, you know, showing this. Not really the way I wanted to, I guess, present the braking. So I'm actually going back out there this evening to put the M190 back in, because my tube is en route, but it won't make it here in time for the event. So I'm going to put it back to M190, no front locker, and so I can drive it to Tennessee and go out and meet all of our folks out in Tennessee. We are excited about that. We'll be able to talk more with them about the portals, about everything that we have on the Bronco. And when I get back, I'll have my tube and I'll be able to install it. I might get my tube before I leave, but that won't give me enough time to install everything. So stay tuned. Part 2 is going to be the install of this and a little bit more about what that solves for y'all.
Thank you for watching this video. I really hope you enjoyed it. Don't forget to like and subscribe and hit the notification bell so you're notified of all of our uploads. Have a good day.